when you're seeing someone that's totally new to this, how do you explain, number one, what meditation is, what it's for, number two, and number three, how to get yourself going in this journey?
Most people who practice meditation have mythology that's getting in the way. Like that meditation means having no thoughts. Right. Totally not true.
Right.
And there's a way to work with that. But making up that I'm supposed to not have thoughts, people try and suppress their thinking, which adds agitation to the nervous system and body that becomes more thoughts. Number two, they thought they had to sit on the floor cross-legged to get somewhere. The body, as we know, as you know, is all vibration and energy. Learning how to work with that and harmonize it with the greater whole of the multiverse is part of what we're training and doing. Sit in a chair, have your hips higher than your knees. Or if you're on the floor and you can sit comfortably, still your hips need to be higher than your knees. Here's why. Because you lose the curve in your low back otherwise, and those muscles start to try and fire, and then that's creating more noise.
Scott, thank you for being on the Extend podcast. It's such a pleasure to have you in front of me in this chair. For our audience, I've known Scott for 10 years. He walked into my clinic 10 years ago seeking treatment.
Yeah, bedraggled.
But you ended up treating me.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So one of the biggest reasons I wanted to have you on this podcast is I consider you an incredibly learned expert in many fields around the brain and the mind, specifically around meditation, breath work, ancient practices, if you will, Eastern and Western practices. And you really have such a breadth of knowledge. So thank you for joining me and agreeing to help explain all of this world to my audience.
I actually live for it.
Yeah.
And on rough days, it's what gets me out of bed, is I care that the one person who's ready gets the resources that can help them take the next step.
Yeah, absolutely. So Scott, before we launch into some of the learnings here, I love to hear kind of where you're coming from. What's your story? When was the first time you were introduced to this world of meditation and mindfulness?
Yeah, it actually started when I was a little boy, and I didn't know that until looking back over my life. And it's really even in the last year, I was taking a year-long developmental psychology course, you should say, with this cohort where we were going back through each of the person perspectives of our lives. So a baby is that first person perspective, right? I, me, and mine. Everything is an extension of me. There's not daddy's cup and my cup. It's all just mine.
Yes. Oh yeah, I lived that with my kids.
Mine. Yeah. So we were asked to reflect on the years of each of those perspectives. You know, you get into second person perspective somewhere in grammar school.
Yeah.
And what's cool about noticing the difference between first and second, if you give a kid a choice between a toy and a friend in first person perspective, they'll always choose the toy. Once they hit second person perspective, they want the friend.
That's so
But it's
true.
their first split ego state because they also still want the toy.
Yeah.
So I'm looking back over my life and I'm like, wow, I've been meditating since I was a kid, but I didn't know that was meditation. Like in grammar school, I remember living in Webster, New York, and we had my parents were recently separated, and we had these two trees in the yard of the house that my dad bought in the front, two big trees, but not so big that I couldn't climb up and sit in one of the branches. And that was my favorite place in the world to go be. It was to go sit up in that tree, especially when it was overcast and about to rain.
Scott, I used to do that too.
Really?
Yes, we had a tree in our backyard. I would climb the tree and just sit there. I mean, my mom would say I was there for hours.
Yeah.
And it didn't even feel like it.
No.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, great. You're my brother.
Incredible, yeah. And we're about the same age. I mean, we're like a couple months apart from each other.
Okay.
Yeah. So
similar. Well,
similar.
You know,
I was in New Jersey. You're in New York.
I was saying to your director of the podcaster, I said, when we wanted privacy on a phone call when we were kids, you stretched the rotary dial phone cord, which was spiraling cord, to another room if it was long enough and closed the door on it. That's how you had a private phone call.
That's exactly right. We're really aging ourselves here, it feels like.
But I've been meditating since I was a kid. I didn't know that I was in wider states of consciousness. And now I've seen more research that every age, kids spin to explore altered states of consciousness. Like we're interested. Something in us knows, and something in me really knew. And when I was little, they nicknamed me Curious George because everything was like, why and how? How, why, where? Show me. It was so curious. In fact, my podcast is called The Choice to Grow, but after the first month of recordings, I'm like, if I do another one, I'm going to call it Curious with a question mark.
Right. I love that. So you were meditating since you were a kid, but not realizing it.
Right.
And when did you decide to do some formalization of this practice?
Great question. So when I was in the seventh grade, starting seventh grade, I had been living in South Carolina for sixth grade with my dad, and I had the choice at the end of that year. I could stay with him or move back up with my mom. And things were really, really rocky in my dad's life. It just was not a good scene. And so I moved up with my mom, and she was a corporate trainer and an executive coach. And the first thing she did was hand me Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People.
I read that book too. Yeah.
And it was such an important thing because I grew up with a experience of myself as being picked last, not fitting in, and not knowing how, and being like a puppy who had these really big legs but didn't know how to make them work. Come into a room with so much energy and didn't know how to titrate it or kind of dial it. Combined with, do you remember the presidential fitness test?
Yes, of course.
I dreaded it because I didn't have parents who were strong on helping me to develop those capacities.
Yeah.
I knew I couldn't do a pull-up, and it was mortifying. It was mortifying. So having this book, How to Win Friends and Influence People, it's like I got a manual on how to make friends. Like smile even when you don't know how or why, learn people's first name, use it often in conversation. Seventh grade.
Seventh grade, okay.
So she was handing me a lot of the books that she had to read for her work, like How to Swim with the Sharks Without Being Eaten Alive by Harvey Mackay, and like so many different things. And I lived in Rochester, New York, where there was a newly opened New Age bookstore, spiritual bookstore.
Okay.
And I found out about it, and I got my mom to take me there more weekends than not. I was an avid reader. Wow. Avid reader. So I started just trying things out. Right. Like I found a book on past life regression early in high school, and I tried it out on my friends, and it turned out it worked.
Incredible.
One guy almost didn't come back.
Oh, no.
He didn't want to come back. I was like, oh God, what do I do?
Oh my gosh.
So it's just one thing after another. And my mom had a really good friend who was doing a lot of exploration and study, who I started spending time with. And she was teaching me things. And when I got into University at Buffalo, SUNY School, there was an East-West Books right across the street from the South Campus.
Okay.
So I pretty much lived there.
I see.
Read everything I can get my hands on.
Where did you go to college for, by the way?
I originally went for art. I got in on my art portfolio, fine arts portfolio, and switched to acting conservatory with a minor in philosophy and religious studies.
Oh, okay. Got it.
Yeah.
And so you're in college. There's now an East-West bookstore right there.
Yep.
And you're diving in even further.
Diving in, and I found I was sitting with a meditation group every week for 4 years.
Wow.
I just thing after thing just started showing up. People started mentoring me.
Yeah.
And showing me that I had abilities. Like, oh, I have intuition? Yes, you do. You have a lot of it. I remember having a tarot card set that I thought was really cool because of the paintings on it. But I didn't really know how it would work. So I would just give people readings. I would pull out the book that came with it and read what the card said. And this one lady, this friend of my mom's friend, she was like, I want you to give me a reading. And I said, okay. And so I have her lay out the cards, and then I pull out the little book. She says, no, put the book away. Put the book away. How am I going to, no, just read. I don't know how to do that. Yes, you do. No, I don't. Yes, you do. She said, just breathe, relax, and see what you notice. I noticed a voice that sounded like my own speaking voice that started saying the things. And the more I paid attention, and it's been with me my whole life, it would often answer what somebody was going to say before they said it. So I got really more curious. And then once I got out of university, I wanted to go further with this. And I had heard about meditation. I'd heard about like deeper practices like the Eastern world of meditation.
Okay.
And this, winter of senior year of university, I finally relented. And I don't know what my resistance was, but I read Autobiography of a Yogi. And I realized I want that. I want to be with a being who's so fully awake that it transmutes my own state of consciousness.
Right.
And I had at the time paid for my best friend and I to do a private Reiki training, level 1 and 2 with this woman, Carolyn Body, if she's still alive, in Rochester. And I said this to her. And she said, oh, well, there's this thing called Siddha Yoga, but it's really far away. It was a 3.5-hour drive to the ashram. I took no notes in that Reiki training, but in the manual, I wrote, somehow without knowing Sanskrit, the exact spelling of Siddha Yoga,
Oh, wow.
Siddha. Like, how would I know that?
Yeah.
And 6 months later, I found myself there taking a meditation intensive where it's designed to awaken the meditative energy, which we can call Kundalini, and the experience is called Shaktipat. By the second afternoon before lunch, in that long meditation, sitting on the floor, I should have been in a chair, my knees were aching, the lights came on. So before that, when I would sit for meditation, maybe something would happen, maybe it didn't. I just kept trying. Afterwards, forever afterwards, there was this sense of aliveness, this dynamic aliveness that's always been present. And so I wanted to go further. I'm just that guy who wants to keep going further, to extend it.
Yeah, I love it. So, listening to your story, you've gone deep into the practice of meditation, and after this, I know the rest of the story, you've learned many other forms, and you've really brought meditation into more of just, I would say, a spiritual practice into your life, but also seems like a passion for you to learn more and more about it.
Yes.
Right?
And not just the Eastern approaches, but the Western as well.
Yeah.
Like, I mingle and marry attachment theory, healing attachment wounds with the meditative practices. So for me, meditation is no longer what it once was, like almost like a goal to get into meditation. Now I see it like a form of cross-training.
Right.
And I've got all these forms of cross-training that I practice on myself as my own laboratory, and then bring to my students and clients.
Amazing. Okay, so I think I talk to a lot of patients about meditation, and most people do not meditate. I would say probably 1 out of every 20 people I know have a real practice of meditation. There's different forms of meditation, and I almost look at them as different steps in your journey of meditation. And one of these is using an app to do a guided meditation, okay? It's sometimes the beginning for people. And then you have learning about different techniques in meditation, whether they be Eastern techniques that are like focus meditations or finding other guided meditations. Maybe it's a loving meditation or whatever, just to achieve different states. And then you have these more transcendent forms of meditation, right? And when you're seeing someone that's totally new to this, how do you explain, number one, what meditation is, what it's for, number two, and number three, how to get yourself going in this journey?
Yeah. So I give them an experience right away.
Right.
And how I do it is this. Most people who practice meditation have mythology that's getting in the way. Like that meditation means having no thoughts.
Right.
Totally not true.
Right.
And there's a way to work with that. But making up that I'm supposed to not have thoughts, people try and suppress their thinking, which adds agitation to the nervous system and body that becomes more thoughts. Number two, they thought they had to sit on the floor cross-legged to get somewhere. Is there data to suggest that sitting in full lotus for 3 full hours, if you can do it in a relaxed way, does something to the subtle energy anatomy and the physical anatomy? Yeah, there is.
There is.
Yeah. Full lotus, if you can sit, if your body will let you do that comfortably and you have a proper technique, there's a way that it's forming a gesture that shapes and directs energy that the Sanskrit is mudra. Like a common meditation gesture that shapes and directs energy is to link the thumb and the forefinger into a teardrop. It's called chin mudra, and it seals a certain form of energy. So the body, as we know, as you know, is all vibration and energy. Learning how to work with that and harmonize it with the greater whole of the multiverse is part of what we're training and doing so that we have access, because the teaching is that we have all the creative powers, all the powers of source in us in seed form. We are the microcosm of the macrocosm. The Vedas say if you can't find it in the body, you won't find it anywhere. So if it's not holding up in one's conduct, in one's way of living, it's not yet done.
Right.
So I said several things. There's mythology, so that's a little bit of mythology. Sit in a chair, have your hips higher than your knees. Or if you're on the floor and you can sit comfortably, still your hips need to be higher than your knees. Here's why. Because you lose the curve in your low back otherwise, and those muscles start to try and fire, and then that's creating more noise.
So you want to like sit on a pillow or maybe in a stool or?
However, you need to experiment. So at this stage in the game, I have a stool that's looks like a half of a balance ball from Gaiam. And that's after years of kind of struggling with my back, because there was a period where I was sitting 3 and 4 hour meditations in one go. And it really just was not good architecture for my body.
Right.
So now I sit on this half ball chair stool thing that forces me to use core strength, elongate my spine. So that's part one, having a good architecture to sit. Number two, people don't relax the body enough. You've got to relax the body. So how I teach it, and maybe you want to go along with this and just see how it is for you.
Yeah, please.
You don't need to change your posture at all. Although if you were sitting for meditation, I'd say probably don't cross your legs, because you're going to like lose circulation at a certain point. And then you're going to have to deal with that.
Yes.
So make a fist and get what that feels like. Feel the tension of that. And then let it go. Notice what that feels like. Map that feeling into the soles of your feet with your imagination, just your imagination. And both hands, palms. So that's pair number 1 of 6 points of softening, soles and palms. Just get familiar with softening the soles and the palms. Letting the breath come in and go out naturally. Soften the 4 corners of the eyes. Make it up that it's easy. And the region inside and around the ears. That's pair number 2. Pair number 3, soften the tongue. And all the muscles of the pelvic floor, groin region. All those little muscles. Soles, palms, eyes, ears, tongue, pelvic floor. You're already in a light meditative state. Are you hearing choirs of angels? Probably not. But that's okay. Just for most people to get an experience of a shift into the parasympathetic tone is enough to want more. Now, part 2, the breath. The longer and the slower I make my exhales, the more the thinking stream slows down. If all I did for 5 minutes was just that, it changes everything. And I get up in an entirely different state of consciousness, and ideally, I'm going to want more. If I was going to add a third thing, it would be this. Follow the sensations of breathing all the way on the full inhale without describing them, and follow the sensations of the exhale. In the gap between the breaths, just be aware of the sensation of your entire body. This is a natural form of one-pointedness. Going further, because of the 6 points of softening, when you're holding 2 or more things in mind at the same time, we come out of the old brain stem, the amygdala or the fight, flight, freeze, into the executive function in the frontal cortex. Prefrontal cortex is my understanding. Where we have the ability to observe our thinking, observe our emotions, and adjust. So if all a person did was do this starting with 5 minutes a day, then increase next week to 10 minutes a day, and just increase it a little bit, and not only am I going to benefit from doing that, but everybody I'm interacting with is going to benefit because of the ability the mirror neurons can feel what you're feeling.
That's awesome, because right then, just doing that, sitting in this chair with you, I felt it. I felt more relaxed, more in the parasympathetic state, but also what was powerful about that, I was still listening to you. I wasn't trying to control my thoughts. I think that, like you said, that's the mythology that people tell themselves, that their thoughts are getting in the way, but it's really not about the thoughts.
Our thoughts have thoughts about their thoughts.
Yeah.
And then we're off to the races, so anxious, so contracted, and the only thing that seems to shut it off is going to sleep or taking something.
Yeah, exactly. Or drinking some alcohol or
Right.
whatever have you, right?
Whatever have you.
Yeah. And so that's the first experience that you give people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Always. And I've done it so many times in the locker room.
Yeah.
People will just ask me about meditation. There was a period of my life where the phone stopped ringing except for 2 clients. This is about 11 years ago, like a year before I met you. And it was the beginning of rideshare. And so for 2.5 months, I was doing rideshare in my car. Mm-hmm. And I could have been as silent as a pin, and I got so many questions. Do you know anything about meditation?
Really?
Reliably.
Huh.
So
Interesting.
people will ask me at the gym, like, hey, what about meditation? Or I'm trying to meditate, I'm really struggling, I'll hear somebody say. All I got to do is show them the 6 points of softening and slow their exhales, and they're like, oh my goodness.
That was it.
That was it.
Right.
Now, the thing is, as we're learning in later or other types of meditation techniques, you may be introduced to forms of visualization. You may be introduced to an empowered phrase in a foreign language called a mantra. So then we can start trying again. And whatever our relationship is to something new and how our body and breath orient, we may start to tense up trying to get something right.
Sure.
So to come back to the beginner's instruction, which is the advanced instruction, is to let go by softening the body and slowing the exhales.
Yeah. Such a powerful technique to add to anyone who's struggling with meditation, because I think, just the whole thought process around meditation is that it's all in here in your head, right? And it's really to your point, it's in the breath, it's in the body and the head, but the head can come last once you get the breath in the body, right?
And then we get the breath in the body, and then we start learning how to do it in motion.
Okay.
Like the Tibetan teachers teach open-eyed meditation primarily. Mm-hmm. Because if it's not integrated into the waking life, then I'm just experiencing peak states.
Yes.
And then eventually I might get frustrated or depressed that I can't have it hold up when I'm in a challenging relationship with my spouse, or my kid has a diagnosis, or my bank balance fell. Mm-hmm. So why I really care about passing these tools along is to give people resourcefulness.
Sure.
We have access to anything knowable. Anything knowable, even if humans have never discussed it, we're connected to everything in the biosphere. Mm-hmm. If you look at those murmurations of birds, when I was in Europe last year, I was just fascinated watching these murmurations.
Yeah.
It's not like one bird's going, hey, Joe, turn left. They just know.
Yeah.
And my hallucination is because they're not caught up in the net of thoughts. Mm-hmm. There's just this recognition. I've seen it with myself. I've seen it with other people, where the radical growth of knowing and intuition without having had read something.
Right. It's so true. So the steps you're giving people to experience meditation and then learn more about it, what comes next? So say someone starts meditating, they're feeling like this is something they want to do more of, and they want to deepen their practice of meditation. Where's the next step here?
Next step would be me asking them, what is it you think you want out of the practice?
Yeah.
Because everybody's going to want something different.
Sure.
Some people are going to be like, I want to learn how to manifest. Okay. Why do you want to manifest? What would you get if you manifested that thing? Oh, well, I would feel that's what you want, the feeling.
Yeah.
Okay, let's have you start to practice the chosen feeling in advance of the thing. The thing is not actually the cause of the feeling. It's the other way around. So when we start learning, I can actually hack, so to speak, my own source code. Like maybe I have a lineage of people who become hostile when questioned. Mm-hmm. Maybe I come from some lineage like that. I can hack that. I can transform that. I'm not stuck with that.
Right.
So if I learn I can activate a chosen feeling, like here's a perfect example. Moms. I love giving this practice to moms. It works for dads too, but it's stronger with moms who gave biological birth. Go, remember the first good moments? Because not everybody had good moments right away. Maybe there was like an emergency or something. Yeah. Remember the first good moments looking your child in the eyes.
Yeah.
Remember what your heart felt like. Now I want you to run that through your body like warm liquid honey spreading through a cloth and make it up that it's easy.
Yeah,
That's a whole meditation.
absolutely. Right.
So it really comes down to, what do you want out of the practice?
Right. So I think, this is where I think a lot of people struggle with it, because people feel like they have to meditate to get the health benefits. Okay. And the health benefits being all the things we hear about. You can avoid Alzheimer's, you protect your brain, maybe it'll help your HRV. These are the things that I hear. Okay.
Sure.
And I think the health benefits come with meditation, but I almost want to give people another purpose to their meditation, right? And manifestation is one purpose, right? What are some of the other purposes that what are the other reasons besides manifestation that you see people coming to you for meditation? And if someone comes to you and just says, let me ask you this question first. If someone comes to you and just says, I want to meditate for the health benefits, what do you tell them?
I would keep it really concrete, like the opening practice that I just gave of the softening of the 6 points. Some people might prefer a body scan, so I let them have that option. I show them how to do that. For me, I'm too much of a perfectionist.
Right.
So by the time I got to my knees, I lost where I was because I was going to meditation.
It's a different version of the body scan. I love that.
Yeah.
It's a much easier version.
Turns out I found out from my acupuncturist years ago, who I was trading with, once when I was giving him this instruction, he opened his eyes and he went white as a sheet. He goes, how do you know this? And I said, what do you mean? He said, this is a secret Taoist water meditation. I said, well, isn't that lovely?
Wow.
But I didn't know what else to do with it. It just came because of this one time when I was having those long sits and I was trying to follow my teacher's instructions of a body scan. And I would start to go into meditation. I hadn't finished the scan and my perfectionist brain kicked in. So I literally said out loud in my meditation room, I go, F this, you've got to show me another way, out loud. And there was an instant response in the intuition. It just showed me these 6 points. It started as 5. I guess I wasn't a good listener. So it had, I think it included the tongue. It didn't yet the pelvic floor. And I think I was just a little nervous about saying that to people. But the fact is, most people grip in that region for no good reason. And it causes a feeling of ungroundedness and so much like that. I lost your question though.
Yeah. So this is what you're telling people that just want the health benefits. But I feel that people lose the practice pretty quickly if all they're getting from it is a potential health benefit, because they don't have another purpose to why they're doing this.
They need something else to track.
Exactly. Yeah. And so the purposes, one of them are manifestation. Another purpose that many people have is they're doing it for religious purposes, to focus on God, right? And this brings them a sense of religion. And then I have a group of people that are looking for transcendence. And what I mean by that is they're looking for something more from the universe that they know is out there, but they want to experience it without doing drugs or what have you, right? And so I find all of these are valid purposes for meditating, but there's probably different routes to get to these places.
There are, and there's readiness and preparedness. The nervous system has to be ready for certain states of consciousness. So one of my jobs at the ashram, at the monastery where I lived, was security. And it's a known thing in the psych community that people who are about to have a psychotic break will go unconsciously seeking a safe place to have it.
Wow, okay.
What happens is people go to such a place like an ashram or a retreat site, and they start feeling so good they get off their meds. I watched a woman get carried out on a stretcher screaming bloody murder, who I knew really well from the small Rochester City Yoga Center. She got off her meds in the middle of a global conference, and I was one of the people who was checking in with her in the beginning. I was like, so I called the psych team. So we need to be able to handle the energy. There is tremendous, if we just think about the many big bangs or the bringing forth of life at conception. You know, you talked about stem cells and what they do. Just the sheer power, if we were to extrapolate it out into some bigger, that's immense. So to run that through that nervous system needs to be prepared. So it's really important to learn how to breathe. And very few people that I see just walking down the street breathe fully and breathe in a way that organizes rather than disorganizes. So if you want to go further and you're looking for something transcendent, it's there, but I advise against trying to storm the gates of heaven.
Right.
You want a big experience, then do the proper protocols of preparation, and maybe you go sit in some sort of a plant medicine situation. But still, you're going to come back to whatever your baseline is.
Yeah.
So learning how to fall in love with the ordinary. I'm looking out a window onto Sunset, above Sunset Boulevard right now, where I can see the green on the trees and the sun touching those leaves, and I can just soften and find that extraordinary. So there are forms of breath work that I took you through where the breath is moving a lot faster. It's through the mouth.
Sure.
And we can get a peak state. I'm not a huge advocate of peak states unless they happen naturally anymore. In fact, the way I brought you through breath work, I've changed that radically. I do.
It was kind of like that Wim Hof type of rapid breathing, the fire breath, and getting into that peak state.
Yeah.
So you've changed that.
I have. I have. Becoming more trauma-informed in the last decade and learning a lot more about neurophysiology and neurobiology has helped me to, now I start people with in through the nose and out through the mouth. Like I'm giving a session at the end of the month that'll be virtual, and people will be mostly lying flat, and we'll be working through the body, like starting with the feet, working up, where do you notice any tension or holding? And to be with it like you're holding an infant or a puppy that you care about without trying to force a change, and then just in through the nose, out through the mouth. And fully feel what's there without a story. And then we work through. The transformations amongst people who used to do the 3-part ecstatic breath with me exclusively are deeper, they say.
Wow.
And more lasting. I was finding that people were coming to my studio classes or wherever like an addict. Not everybody, but there were people, I just want to get high. But they weren't transforming their behavior on the whole.
Yeah. And this is something I've read about, people that practice that fire breathing or Wim Hof type of breathing on the regular, is they do get kind of addicted to it because does become their high. And look, I think all these breathwork practices have a purpose, but maybe not as much as we've been using them over the last decade since they became popularized. And I have an intuition that back in the old Ayurvedic times in India, people did use these breathwork practices. We know the Buddhist monks did when they were, ready to get into some type of cold exposure situation. But it was using the breath to prepare themselves for that specific situation.
And they had done other preliminary practices often for years. So BKS Iyengar, who was famous for creating Iyengar yoga, and wrote a book called Light on Yoga. Well, he wrote a book called Light on Pranayama. So pranayama is where breath work comes from. Pranayama is not breath work. It's literally regulating, directing, and shaping the movement of vital energies called pranas. He wouldn't teach anything that we consider a sexy form of breath until somebody had mastered the full breath, the full capacity of the lungs without strain. And he was very clear, is very clear in Light on Pranayama, don't do any breathing techniques where you're doing any form of force because it creates heat in the skull. And so in the Ayurvedic understanding, that is contraindicated. So this notion of, okay, we live in a society of extremes. And I think that's partially because people want to get out of their head and get into a different state experience, whether it's through taking kava or doing drugs or smoking weed or whatever it is, or we've lost the magic of the ordinary. And to be able to consistently breathe 6-second inhales and 6-second exhales through the nose only is life-changing for most people. You extend that into 11-second inhales and 11-second exhales, you're in a meditative state. So transcendence is available, but it's not what most of us, it's not what I thought it was. Like I was expecting visions. It's like, go to the movies. Go to the movies. For me, transcendence is dissolving my old historical ways of being with myself and others that create or reified tension. For me, transcendence is the ability to feel real compassion for somebody who I wouldn't necessarily invite to dinner, but the compassion is real. The love is actually there, and the recognition that I and you are fingers on one hand.
Right. That's true. I mean, I think, when I talk to people about meditation, it's really interesting. It either seems really woo-woo to them, or it seems like something they want to do for their health.
Yeah.
And I think people have guilt if they don't do it. And then I always try to tell them it's a lot easier than you think it is, and just start with some breath work.
Yeah.
I think breath work gives people a structure around doing something to change their state that they can follow pretty easily. And I'm curious for you, if someone comes to you and says, give me a breathwork practice I should be doing every day, what would that breathwork practice be?
Nadi Shodhana, alternate nostril breathing.
Yes. Can you describe that for me?
Yeah. Yep. So if you're able to do this, you're not driving. If you're driving, pull over or save this for later. So if you were going to do it properly, there's certain fingers you use to open and close the nostrils. So you use your right hand, because we know in the East, you don't show your left hand, certainly not at a dinner table, because that's what you use to clean up in the restroom.
Exactly.
So your thumb is going to open and close your right nostril, and your ring finger is going to open and close your left nostril. And what we're essentially doing here, before I take you into the experience, is each nostril corresponds to the lunar energy or the solar energy. Right. And in the subtle energy anatomy, we have what's called the central channel, the Sushumna Nadi. Nadi means a roaring river of energy, roaring river. And so this main central channel runs just forward of the spine, and then there are two on either side, one on either side, the sun and the moon. So, and if you notice right now, one nostril is more open than the other. It has to do with the circadian rhythms.
Right.
So you're going to begin by exhaling fully. You can just exhale fully and then put close the right nostril, or just all the way out. You're going to inhale through the left slowly while you soften at least your hands and feet. Then close the left, just relax. Both of them are closed. And just relax. Then exhale out the right slowly. Pause. Inhale through the right. Pause and close. Relax. Exhale out the left. Inhale through the left. Relax at the top. Exhale out the right. So that's the pattern. Now, if you just pause, all of you are doing, just pause for a moment. What's changed? I have a lot of experience with practices like this, and I feel way more present, way more grounded in my body, and I feel that the outline of my body is more relaxed. If that was the only breath work technique somebody did, and they did it when they wake up, and they did it before they go to sleep. If you can only do it before you go to sleep, you're going to have a much better sleep. Somebody's asking, how long? I would say, start with 5 minutes. Start with 5 minutes. You can always do less, but start with 5 and see what happens. There's something about commitment. The same thing with meditation. I learned this from one of the teaching monks in the ashram early in my meditation career. It said, commit to amount of time, under promise and over deliver, but always sit for the entire time you told yourself you were going to sit, even if it feels difficult. Sometimes the opening or the shift doesn't happen until the very end.
Right.
And what's that shift? Just like what we're experiencing right here, like a softening, an expansiveness. The mind isn't trying to run the show, ordinary mind. The heart may feel a little more open. So these simple things, to notice these simple things, and then there's 3 questions I encourage people to write down, especially early in a practice, that will help give confidence. You finish the practice, you write down number 1, what happened? Number 2, how did you feel during the practice? Number 3, how do you feel now? You track that for 30 days, you're gonna have a lot of confidence.
Right.
Wow, something's happening.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the key there is to just do it and stick with it.
That's right.
Right.
And you can always do more. Now, a tip from one of my other teachers, she says, stop while the practice still feels good.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Because then you want more.
Yeah.
And you want to see, this is about hacking the mind, out-minding the mind.
Right. Exactly. So that's a great piece of take-home advice, that breathwork practice right there. And also the meditation practice that you talked to us about. Meditation, breathwork, I feel are core aspects of getting your mindset in the right place. And the other thing that you told me earlier, which I want to ask you about now, is waking up, growing up, cleaning up, and showing up. And I really like that string of words, but I want to dive deep into what is the meaning behind that.
Great. So first of all, the phraseology comes from a combination of my friend Dustin DePerna and his work with Ken Wilber, who's an extraordinary thinker, still alive. If you haven't explored Ken Wilber's work, start with integral spirituality or integral meditation. So these 4 parts are a way to see a whole. So waking up was typically the province of the East. That's expanding states of consciousness, exploring what we could call in the realm of enlightenment or self-realization. The East was really, really good at that. The West was more the growing up. That's the psychological health and vitality. That is moving through later and later stages of adult ego development. Moving beyond, so the center of gravity statistically for our country, perspective taking, is a third-person perspective, which is rational. Fourth-person perspective is when metacognition really starts to blossom, the ability to think about my thinking. It's where I'm actually interested in looking at my part in a difficulty. It's where I'm actually interested in doing what's called shadow work. Fifth-person perspective is when I start to recognize the insubstantiality of everything that exists, that it's all temporary. And so the way the Buddhists would phrase that is the emptiness of all phenomenon. Sixth-person perspective, and there's a lot more to each of these stages, way more. Sixth-person perspective, which is statistically still pretty rare, is where love is actually unconditional for all of existence. And what foreground, the personality starts to background, doesn't go away. Never try and kill your ego and run away from anybody that tells you to, because you're going to have to be hospitalized. What foregrounds is timeless, boundless awareness. That is, it's everywhere. It's boundless, and it's not in time. And then on a seventh person perspective is where the statistics kind of fall off. We don't have as much research, but where real non-duality takes root.
Okay.
And there are iterating patterns through these stages. So that's growing up. Growing up is also like my relational intelligence, my ability to self-soothe. Like all these things are in the growing up. So they serve one another, because we have so many examples of teachers, just teachers, who had advanced states of consciousness, but it didn't transform their nervous system entirely, and it didn't transform how they operated around, like, say, money and sex. So you've got all these famous gurus who've slept with their students or taken money in really uncool ways. Why is that? Because the ego work didn't get done. They just try to transcend it and pretend it wasn't there and suppress it. So these two things work really, really well together. Cleaning up is illuminating the unconscious. It's attributed to Carl Jung. We don't know for sure that he said it. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will rule your life and you will call it fate.
Yes.
We all have things that we don't know we do that our friends do.
Right.
They know we do it. But like certain ways of being that are unskillful or harmful to ourselves or others, whether it's emotionally or physically, that's illuminating the unconscious. It's also called parts work. And that's some of what I do with people in the private session work or in the group work. And it also is where I thread in some of this fits in growing up and cleaning up, the healing and the attachment wounds. Showing up is conduct. You want to find out how enlightened somebody is? Look at their conduct. There's an old saying, you want to find out how enlightened the master is, go ask his wife.
That's right. I love that.
Yeah, so that's kind of like a bird's eye view of it. It's a way to make sure we're doing more complete work.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's a great structure. And so if people want to learn more about these 4 methods and bringing them together, you have online courses where people can come and learn about all 4 of these what do you call these techniques or for
Lenses.
aspects?
I call it lenses.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're lenses on reality.
Right. Where can people find this course?
So I have a number of courses on my own platform, scottschwenk.com. I've got four courses on the onecommune.com platform. And I've got one course out, one course in launch on unity.com. They're based out of Switzerland. And they've just moved into the English market. So you can stay tuned. There's a course called, I think it's called Sacred Alchemy. We changed the name. We did a 100-person focus group.
Wow.
Changed the name, Sacred
I love
Alchemy.
that name.
Yeah. So my courses tend to blend East and West. So in all of my courses, we're weaving in healing attachment wounds. We're weaving in, generally there's a mantra. Like I have permission from my teacher, from my lineage, to give mantra empowerments. And that's a key thing when we're wanting to learn meditation, really anything from anybody, if we come back to mirror neurons, is to learn it from somebody who's embodying more of it than we are. And there's something that literally moves from mind to mind, nervous system to nervous system, and makes it easier to catch.
Right. And so this is, people can learn about this on your website, and you can take them deep into this field.
Yeah.
I love this. Yeah.
And I also do one-on-one work, master coaching worldwide, and those are like 1-hour sessions. And I also do scopes of work with businesses. I'm teaching, my host platform is called Kajabi. So some people know about that.
I know Kajabi.
Yeah. So I've been asked to come in and teach at their offsite. I'm one of 3 people next month that'll go down to Orange County and teach at their offsite. So I do culture architecture with businesses based on the cutting edge work of Sloan School out of MIT called Theory U.
Fantastic.
Teaching work groups how to literally sense and listen for emerging futures rather than keep reiterating the past.
Right. Fantastic. And scottschwenk.com is everything is there.
It's all there.
Well, this was so enlightening for me. Thank you. I feel like I got a master course an introduction to a master course in meditation. And thank you for putting the structure out there and giving us just daily tips that we can use for breath work and getting used to meditating through your techniques that you taught us today on the podcast. I really appreciate you. Thank you for coming today.
Thank you. The last thing I'll say is there's no bad meditation, only the one you don't do.
I love it. Thanks, Scott.